Hi BookTube, it's Eleanor here. Today I'm going to do the Bookish Sweets tag. I was tagged to do this by the Skeptical Reader, I'll leave her details below. And the original creators were Christy and Abby, and I'll leave their details down below as well. There's about 18 questions to this tag, so I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the reason I don't really do tags is that I don't tend to keep my books unless they're really epic, so I will be keeping, as you can see here, my Game of Thrones box set. But often if I read a book, it's either borrowed from the library so it has to go back, or I donate to Oxfam because I'm not a big rereader, so I tend not to keep them. So unfortunately I won't be having the book covers to show you, but I will try and get through them very quickly and tell you what they are and a little bit about them if I can. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going. Question number 1 is Sweet and Sour, a book that shocked you the most. I think that has got to be the Game of Thrones series. I've just finished the second part of Storm of Swords, so I'm just about to move on to A Feast for Crows. And I hadn't started this series because I thought it was going to be really difficult to read. I thought it was going to be really heavy and really hard to get into, and that I didn't maybe have the concentration to do it, but I gave it a go. I thought I'm going to give it a go because I love the TV series and I'd watched the first 2 series, and I couldn't have been more wrong. It's so easy to read, it's so fun, action-packed, fast, there's some really good characters. I love the fact that it's written from lots of different characters' point of view, so you're skipping between different places and different times. There is a lot of characters to remember, but once you get into it, yeah, there is no stopping me and I'm really enjoying it, so that definitely shocked me. Number 2 is pick and mix your 5 favourite genres, and mine have to be science fiction, fantasy, YA, non-fiction and popular fiction. I like the fiction that's often in the top 10. I'm not sure if that you categorise that as a genre in itself, but I like popular fiction, whether that's literary or contemporary. Bubblegum. Which book started off exciting but lost its flavour and pop after the first few chapters? I think for me that's got to be Horns by Joe Hill. I thought I was going to enjoy it. It was quite easy reading. I wasn't finding it too scary because I was a bit worried about that, but it kind of lost its flavour. I didn't really get into it. I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I didn't really like any of them. I wasn't that bothered. So yeah, Horns. Number 4. Sherbet Lemons. Which book looked enticing but left a bad taste in your mouth? That's got to be Shatter Me. It looks great, the book looks beautiful, the hype on BookTube. I thought, how can I go wrong? This is going to be a really great book to read. And it just fell a bit flat for me. It wasn't really a great story, I didn't think. It had the potential, but I just didn't like the main character. She was whiny, a bit childish, and it just didn't really go where I was hoping it would go. So yeah, that would be the one for me for that question. Number 5, Love Hearts. The most lovey-dovey book you've read. I'm not really into romancy type books. I wouldn't say that I read a lot of contemporary. Occasionally I do, and I don't read a lot of adult romance fiction. I like romance in my books, but I like there to be a bit of something else. I don't want the story just to be a love story. But recently I did read Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover, and I loved that book. I loved the fact that it was a bit different. I downloaded the soundtrack that you can get with it, and I listened to that along with it, and yeah, I had a little cry, I think. So I definitely say that's my favourite lovey book. Licorice All Sorts. It takes all sorts of characters to build a novel. What are your favourites? I really like characters that have flaws. I like characters that are whole. I don't like characters that are just brilliant and they haven't got any troubles, or there's nothing about them to sort of interest you. So, you know, in Harry Potter I like Hermione Granger, I like Tyrion Lannister in the Game of Thrones series. Next is Flying Saucers. Do you read science fiction or fantasy? If so, which is your favourite book? I have to say, science fiction and fantasy, yes, I do read, but I hadn't read it very much, but I'm getting a lot more into it since I've joined BookTube, and I've been hearing some really great books that are out there. And I have to say, Brandon Sanderson is definitely my go-to guy for anything like that. I'm really enjoying his books. I've read Alcatraz, which is one of his YA novels. I've read Steelheart, which is a superhero type novel, really good. And I've recently read The Rhythmatist, which is another YA book which I've really enjoyed, and I'm about to go on to the Mistborn series. So yeah, I definitely think he is my favourite. Poppets. What is your favourite child character in literature? I think I'd have to say Anne of Green Gables. I just read that to death and watched the films to death when I was younger. I really, yeah, definitely. And I'm thinking I might have to pick up the book so that I could read it to my daughter when she gets a bit older. I definitely think I want to get her into that as well. Boost. Which book never fails to cheer you up? It's got to be Harry Potter. It's just such a good story. Tic Tacs, your favourite small book. For this, I'm going to mention what I mentioned in one of my last videos, which is an essay, The Unknown Unknown, Bookshops and the Delight of Not Getting What You Want. It's a really good little essay about how great it is to go into bookshops, not know anything about a book, get recommended something you've never heard of, didn't know anything about, and then finding out it's great. Another book I've read recently is All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman. This is a really short book. It is 108 pages of really good goodness. It's about a world where superheroes exist. This man isn't a superhero, and he gets married, and his superhero wife gets hypnotised to believe that he doesn't exist and she can't see him, but he's still there. And so it's about how he can convince her, because there's a time limit and then he really will be gone. It's how he can convince her that he is there. So yeah, it's just a really good book. Sugar Mice. Your favourite fictional animal. I have to say, this one came at a really good time because I absolutely loved The Bees by Lillian Poole, which is about Flora, who's a bee. So I'd have to say, Flora, who's a bee. Scream Eggs. Your favourite scary book. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm a massive scaredy cat, so I suppose Nosferatu was a book I read recently that I quite enjoyed, so yeah, that'd probably be my favourite scary book. Kinder Surprise. Which book had the most surprising end? I think for me, it has to be Dangerous Girl by Abigail Hath. I really didn't see what was coming in this. Maybe I'm a bit naive, but it was a really good story. It's a bit of a murder type book set on an island with a load of friends that have gone away on holiday together. Yeah, just a really, it was a big twist for me. I didn't really see it coming, so I definitely recommend to read that. Stick of Rock, a great book which lasts for a very long time. My recommendation for this one has to be Bone. It's massive. It's 1,332 pages of comic graphic novel genius. I love it. It's such a good story. Everyone should read this. I read this when I first started getting into comics and graphic novels quite a few years ago, and yeah, it's definitely, I loved it. Really good. And I'm normally into really like good punchy colour graphic novels. I don't really like black and white stuff, but the story in this is just brilliant. In fact, I may have to reread it soon. Gobstoppers, a book that left you speechless. For this, I'd have to say Mother Mother by Corinne Zale-Cass. The whole book left me speechless. It's about a woman called Josephine who has 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, and it's just about her control over the family. And I don't want to say too much more but it's definitely worth a read, so I definitely recommend that. And then the other book for that I'd like to say is Tamper by Alyssa Nutting. I'm hesitant to even talk about this book because I really don't want anyone else to read it because it left me speechless. I didn't enjoy it at all. I think this is definitely a Marmite book from what I've heard. I just felt uncomfortable reading it and I didn't find it interesting. I just didn't like the subject matter at all. It's about a teacher a female teacher who preys on young boys and has affairs and seduces them, and I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was appropriate reading for anybody really, so yeah, that left me definitely speechless. Harry Potter themed ones. Bertie Bott's Every Flavour Beans, a book outside your usual comfort zone which you really enjoyed. I think I'd have to say again, sorry for repeating myself, but Nosferatu, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and to be honest I didn't think I'd get through the whole book, but I did and I enjoyed it, and it wasn't the best book I've ever read, but it was out of my comfort zone and I enjoyed it, so definitely that. And then Chocolate Frogs, the most unusual book you've read. I think most recently, and I'm really sorry I've gone back again on another book, but The Bees by Lillian Poole. I really enjoyed this and it wouldn't be something I'd necessarily pick up normally. I've been hearing mixed views from other people, but for me I just really enjoyed finding out more about bees and their culture and how bees work and how the hive works, and in a fictional way. I just thought it was a really good story. The final is a bonus question. Can you show something bookish which you can wear? Well, yes I can. Funnily enough, I can show you my Books Are Banned bracelet. I got this from my husband a number of years ago. It says I read banned books, and each of the different section is a book which has been banned over the years. So as you can see, there's Alice in Wonderland, Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, Alice Walker's The Colour Purple, Howl, Go Ask Alice, and Annie on My Mind. And I just really like this bracelet, and yeah, so that's something bookish that you can wear. This is my Bookish Sweets tag. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that I haven't got the books to show you, but I hope that I've told you a little bit about them and maybe intrigued you to have a look at a few, and definitely not pick up that one that I mentioned. You know, I'm not going to say it again because I don't want to remind, but don't pick that up. Anyway, that's all for now, BookTube. Bye.